First contact with fear. The Grand Academy of Interstellar Studies was renowned across 17 star systems for producing the finest xenobiologists in the galaxy. Its gleaming spires and gravity-defying architecture spoke of advancement, civilization, and the pinnacle of evolution. In the assignment hall, 4 senior students stared at the display screen in disbelief. "This must be an error," Zervex said, his translucent tentacles writhing in agitation. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among the Corridans. "They can't possibly expect us to go to Earth." Mila, a Cetarian with iridescent scales and delicate membrane wings, hovered nervously beside him. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. No Academy team has been sent there in over 40 cycles. Perhaps it's a simulation exercise," suggested Thorn, the bulky Dravax whose rocky exterior concealed a gentle scientific mind. His crystalline sensory nodes glowed dimly with concern. Lorkel, the 4th member of their team, remained silent. The Viridian was carefully examining the assignment details on her personal data sphere, her 4 arms moving in perfect coordination as she manipulated the holographic interface. Her species was known for methodical analysis before reaction. "It's not a simulation," Lorkel finally declared. "The assignment is authentic. We are to conduct a 3-cycle observation of Earth's dominant species, humans, while disguised as exchange students at one of their learning institutions." Disguised as humans, Zervex's epidermis flushed a pale yellow, the Quarian equivalent of going pale. Their environmental conditions would kill us in minutes without extensive protection. Professor Exanthar approached their group, moving with the deliberate grace characteristic of the ancient Phalon race. His silver-blue skin reflected the room's light as he regarded his most promising students. "I see you've received your final assignment," he observed, his voice a melodious hum. "Yes, it is extraordinary, but so are you 4. The Council believes it's time for deeper understanding of humanity." "But Professor," Mila protested, her wings vibrating with anxiety, "Earth has 1.4 times standard gravity, oxygen levels that would be toxic to us, extreme temperature variations, unpredictable weather patterns, and countless pathogens, not to mention the humans themselves, a predatory species with remarkable aggression." Professor Exanthar nodded patiently. "All true. That's why you'll be equipped with our most advanced environmental suits. They will regulate all external conditions and project a convincing human appearance." "What exactly are we studying?" Thorn asked, practical as always. "A fundamental question that has puzzled xenobiologists for generations," the professor replied. "How has a species that evolved on one of the most hostile worlds we've encountered not only survived, but developed spacefaring technology? Most species from such environments remain primitive, focused solely on survival. Yet humans have built complex civilizations despite their planet constantly trying to kill them." Lorkel's sensory tendrils extended with interest. "The Deathworld paradox." "Precisely," Xanthar confirmed. "Your mission is to observe humans in their natural environment and document what adaptations, physical, social, and psychological, have allowed them to thrive under conditions that would destroy most sentient species." The 4 students exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and scientific curiosity passing between them. This assignment would define their academic careers, if they survived it. 2 standard weeks later, their specialized transport pod descended through Earth's atmosphere. The small craft shuddered violently as it encountered air resistance. "Atmospheric turbulence within expected parameters," the pilot announced, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her concern. "Activating thermal shields for entry." From their seats, the 4 students watched through the viewports as clouds parted to reveal the blue and green world below. It appeared deceptively peaceful from orbit. "Final environmental checks," Lorkel reminded them, ever methodical. They all examined their suits, confirming that the sophisticated systems were functioning properly. The suits were marvels of xenotechnology. Lightweight yet stronger than battle armor, They would maintain ideal conditions for each species while projecting a flawless human holographic overlay. The suits included translation modules, environmental analyzers, and emergency transponders. "Remember," Zervex said nervously, "if our suits fail, we have approximately 3 minutes to reach the emergency extraction points." "Such optimism," Mila replied with a trill that indicated sarcasm. "I estimate 2 minutes at most before Earth's environment becomes fatal." "Focus on the mission," Thorne rumbled. 3 cycles. We observe, we document, we survive. Their landing site was a remote area near the Human Educational Facility, designated Pacific Northwest University. According to their briefing, they would be joining the institution's international exchange program, a convenient cover that would explain any unusual behavior. As the transport settled onto Earth's surface, they felt the first crushing embrace of the planet's gravity, even through their suits' compensators. "By the void," whispered Zervex. "It's like wearing armor made of neutron star material." The outer hatch opened, and Earth's atmosphere rushed in, filtered through their craft's systems. Even so, the students could sense the raw power of the world waiting outside. Their suits indicated temperature, pressure, and composition readings that would be lethal to their natural forms. Lorkel was the first to stand, her movements slightly awkward as she adjusted to the suit's human appearance. Where once had been a 6-limbed, azure-skinned Viridian, now stood what appeared to be a human female with dark hair and olive skin. "Fascinating," she said, examining her human-appearing hands. "The projection feels almost real." One by one, they emerged from the transport, which quickly camouflaged itself as an unremarkable rocky outcropping. They stood on Earth soil, surrounded by tall vegetation classified as trees. Above them, the system's star, Sol, beamed down radiation that would have seared their natural bodies in seconds. Mila checked her environmental readings. The air contains countless microorganisms. The suit filtration system is already processing 17 potentially harmful strains. And this is considered a temperate region, Thorne added, his sensors extending to analyze the soil beneath them. Thousands of kilometers in that direction, the temperature regularly drops below freezing. In the opposite direction, it can exceed 40 degrees Celsius. How do humans survive such extremes? Zervex wondered aloud. That, Lorkel reminded them, is exactly what we're here to find out. Their first encounter with actual humans came as they approached the university campus. A large ground transport vehicle, a bus, stopped near them, disgorging a crowd of young humans carrying various items. "Remember your briefing," Lorkel subvocalized through their communication system. "We are exchange students from various Earth nations. I am Laura from Japan. Zervex is Zach from Sweden. Mila is Mila from Brazil. And Thorne is Thomas from Australia." The humans paid them little attention as they made their way to the administrative building. Inside, they were greeted by an older female human with a welcoming facial expression. "You must be our new international students," she exclaimed, consulting a data device. "Welcome to Pacific Northwest University. I'm Dr. Martinez, International Student Coordinator." Lorkel stepped forward, activating her translation module. "Yes, we are pleased to be here. I am Laura Tanaka." Dr. Martinez smiled broadly. "Wonderful. Your English is excellent. We've arranged housing for you with American roommates to help you adjust. Classes start tomorrow, but today we have orientation and campus tours." As they followed the human through the building, Zervex transmitted observations to the others. "Notice how casually they treat the structural integrity of their dwellings. These support columns would never meet Quarian safety standards. A minor seismic event would collapse everything. Their atmosphere control is primitive," Mila added. "Temperature variations of several degrees between rooms. No filtration for airborne pathogens." And yet, Thorne observed, they appear completely at ease. Their tour took them across the campus, where hundreds of humans engaged in various activities. Some sat on the ground, direct contact with the soil teeming with microorganisms, while others engaged in high-energy physical contests with minimal protective gear. Those students are playing ultimate frisbee, Dr. Martinez explained, pointing to a group throwing a disc through the air. Very popular here. Lorkel's sensors indicated the humans were expending significant energy, raising their core temperatures and heart rates to levels that would indicate severe distress in most galactic species. Yet they were displaying signs of enjoyment. You'll each have residence hall assignments. Dr. Martinez continued, leading them toward a cluster of large buildings. Your roommates are expecting you. The four exchanged nervous glances. They would now be separated and expected to cohabitate with humans. Their research was truly beginning. Zervex, now Zach, stood frozen in the doorway of his assigned living space. The room was small by galactic standards, with minimal furnishings and 2 sleeping platforms. On one of them sat a human male surrounded by electronic devices. Hey, you must be Zach from Sweden. The human bounded across the room with alarming speed, extending a hand. I'm Jason. Looks like we're roomies this semester. Zervex cautiously extended his suit's hand, remembering the briefing on human greeting customs. The human grasped it firmly and moved it up and down. Through his suit's sensors, Zervex could detect the surprising strength in the casual grip. Yes, I am Zach. Pleased to meet you. He managed, his translation module converting his natural harmonic speech to human English. Cool accent. Never met anyone from Sweden before. Want help unpacking? I got us some snacks to celebrate. Jason gestured toward a collection of colorful packages. Zervex's suit analyzed the contents. High concentrations of various carbohydrates, sodium compounds, and most alarmingly, capsaicin, a neurotoxin that humans consumed voluntarily. No, thank you. I am not hungry after travel. Jason shrugged. Suit yourself. The bathroom's down the hall if you need to shower. Water pressure sucks, but it's better than nothing. Water. Caustic dihydrogen monoxide that fell from Earth's sky and covered most of its surface. Humans not only survived constant exposure to it, but immersed themselves in it voluntarily. I will. Rest now, Zervex said, carefully placing his equipment container on the unoccupied sleeping platform. No problem. Man, big orientation party tonight if you're up for it later. Great way to meet people. Zervex's translator struggled with the concept of a party, but his briefing materials indicated it involved large gatherings of humans, often consuming toxins like ethanol, while engaging in high-energy social behaviors. I will consider it, he replied, wondering how he would survive 3 cycles on this death trap of a planet. Across campus, the others were having similar experiences. Mila, discovered her roommate kept a small predatory creature called a cat in their living space. Thomas, found himself assigned to the 6th floor of a building, suspended at a height that would be fatal if the primitive structure failed. Laura, was informed by her roommate that the region was overdue for a major earthquake, but told not to worry because the buildings are pretty much up to code. They managed to reconvene briefly that evening in a designated study area, sharing their initial observations while appearing to collaborate on academic work. This planet is even more hostile than our briefings indicated, Mila whispered, her wings fluttering nervously beneath her suit's projection. My roommate casually mentioned that the vegetation outside our dwelling contains toxins that cause severe dermal irritation. They call it poison ivy and treat it as a mere inconvenience. The human body is more resilient than I anticipated, Thorne added. My roommate has a damaged leg from something called skiing. Apparently, they strap devices to their feet and slide down frozen precipitation at high speeds for recreation. He described breaking his tibial bone as no big deal and totally worth it. Zervex's coloration had shifted to a stress-indicating purple beneath his suit. My assigned human invited me to consume liquid toxins tonight to loosen up and have fun. Their recreational activities deliberately impair cognitive function. Lorkel had been quietly analyzing data from her suit's sensors. The most remarkable observation so far is their casualness about danger. They live constantly on the edge of disaster yet seem unaware of it. Tomorrow we begin classes that should provide more structured observation opportunities. As they spoke, a loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the building. Red lights flashed along the corridors. The aliens froze in terror. Emergency protocols activated. Thorne subvocalized, his rocky body solidifying defensively within his suit. Around them, human students casually gathered their belongings and moved toward the exits. "It's just a fire drill," explained a passing human, noticing their confusion. "Happens every month. No big deal." "Fire drill?" Mila questioned. "Yeah, practice for if the building catches on fire. They make us go outside and stand around for 20 minutes. Super annoying." The human walked away, leaving the 4 aliens in stunned silence. Their research had barely begun, yet they had already discovered something profound. On Earth, potential incineration was considered a routine inconvenience. The Deathworld advantage. Over the following days, the 4 alien researchers immersed themselves in human academic life, each focusing on different aspects of Earth's dominant species. They attended classes, participated in social activities, and meticulously documented their observations, all while struggling to comprehend how humans not only survived but thrived on their lethal homeworld. Lorkel found herself in a human biology laboratory, staring in fascination at a display of anatomical models. The human body was simultaneously fragile and remarkably robust, soft tissues vulnerable to countless hazards, yet designed with redundant systems and extraordinary regenerative capabilities. "Interested in medicine?" asked Professor Chen, noticing her attention to the exhibit. "Yes," Lorkel replied carefully. "I find human adaptability fascinating." "Indeed." The professor smiled. "We're remarkably resilient creatures. Did you know human liver tissue can regenerate from as little as 25% of the original organ? Or that our intestinal lining completely replaces itself every few days?" Lorkel's scientific training prevented her from displaying shock, but the information was startling. Most galactic species required medical intervention for even minor cellular damage. Yet humans had evolved rapid self-repair mechanisms as a baseline function. "What about radiation?" she asked. "How do humans protect themselves from their sun's emissions?" "Melanin in our skin provides some natural protection, though it varies by population. Otherwise, we use sunscreen, clothing, or simply limit exposure." Professor Chen shrugged as if discussing a minor inconvenience rather than a constant bombardment of cellular damaging radiation. Later, Lorkel shared her findings with her teammates. "Their DNA repair mechanisms are unlike anything in our records. They've evolved to withstand constant damage from their environment." Zervex had chosen to investigate human social structures and found himself in an anthropology class discussing early human history. "Early humans survived through cooperation and innovation," explained Professor Williams. "When faced with environmental challenges, ice ages, predators, limited resources, we developed tools, language, and social bonds that allowed us to adapt rather than simply evolving physical responses." Zervex raised his hand, carefully formulating a question that wouldn't reveal his alien perspective. "But wouldn't physical adaptation be more efficient than technological solutions?" The professor considered this, perhaps in the very long term. "But human evolutionary advantage has always been our brains, our ability to assess a threat and engineer a solution within a single lifetime, rather than waiting for genetic adaptation over thousands of generations." This concept struck Zervex profoundly. Most spacefaring species had evolved in relatively stable environments, developing intelligence after achieving biological equilibrium with their surroundings. Humans had developed higher cognition as a survival response to a hostile world. Intelligence itself was their evolutionary adaptation. Mila focused on human psychology, attending lectures on risk assessment and decision-making. What she discovered challenged everything she had assumed about species development. Humans actually seek out danger, she asked her psychology professor after a lecture on extreme sports. Many do, confirmed Dr. Patel. We call it sensation-seeking behavior. For some humans, the neurochemical reward of overcoming fear or mastering a dangerous situation outweighs the perceived risk. But why would evolution favor such behavior? Doesn't it threaten survival? Good question. Some theories suggest risk-taking behavior evolved because the humans who explored, who ventured into unknown territories despite dangers, ultimately found new resources and opportunities. The risk-takers survived famines because they'd already discovered new food sources. They survived predator attacks because they'd learned to create better weapons. Mila contemplated this. On her homeworld, conservation of energy and avoidance of unnecessary risk were considered evolutionary advantages. Yet humans had evolved to be curious, specifically because their world was so dangerous. Exploration became necessary for survival. Thorne had chosen to study human environmental engineering, how they constructed habitats to shield themselves from Earth's countless hazards. He sat in an architecture class, marveling at how humans built structures directly atop known fault lines, in floodplains, and in regions regularly struck by extreme weather events. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, we designed with these challenges in mind, the professor explained, showing schematics of flexible buildings designed to sway during seismic events. Human innovation thrives when confronted with problems to solve. After class, Thorne's assigned roommate invited him to a weekend camping trip. It'll be awesome. We're hiking up to Eagle Peak. Great views, maybe some fishing. Camping? Thorne questioned, consulting his cultural database. You sleep. Outdoors. Deliberately. His roommate laughed. That's kind of the point. Getting back to nature, you know. Don't worry. We've got good tents if it rains. Thorne struggled to comprehend voluntarily abandoning shelter to expose oneself to weather, wildlife, and countless environmental hazards. Yet his roommate described it as relaxing and fun. 2 weeks into their mission, the 4 researchers reconvened to compare observations. They chose the university library, finding a quiet corner where they could speak privately while appearing to study. The patterns are clear, Lorkel began. Humans evolved in response to constant threats. Their biology, psychology, and social structures all reflect adaptation to danger. They don't just adapt to their environment, they expect to modify it, Thorne added. When confronted with a problem, their instinct is to engineer a solution rather than avoiding the threat. And they actually seek out challenges, Mila said. Their recreation often involves deliberate risk-taking. It's as if they need danger to feel fully alive. Their scientific advancement is directly linked to their hostile environment, Zervex concluded. Most species develop science as a result of curiosity after achieving safety. Humans develop science as a survival mechanism. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden violent trembling. Books fell from shelves. Light fixtures swayed. The building itself seemed to groan under stress. Earthquake, someone shouted. Around them, human students moved quickly but calmly toward designated areas, many getting under tables or standing in doorframes. For the alien researchers, the earthquake was terrifying beyond measure. Even through their advanced suits, they could feel the planet itself becoming actively hostile. Thorne froze, his crystalline structure vibrating dangerously within his suit. Mila's wings flattened against her body in a primal fear response. Zervex's coloration shifted rapidly through stress patterns. Only Lorkel maintained enough composure to activate her suit's emergency protocols, which stabilized their immediate environment somewhat. But the shaking continued, growing more violent. Part of the ceiling collapsed nearby, sending dust and debris everywhere. A human student lay trapped beneath a fallen beam, crying out in pain. Without conscious thought, Thorne moved toward the injured student, his suit enhancing his natural strength as he lifted the heavy beam. The weight would have crushed most species, but his Dravak's physiology, even confined within the suit, allowed him to bear it long enough for others to pull the injured human free. The earthquake subsided as suddenly as it had begun. In its aftermath, the library was in disarray, but most humans appeared remarkably calm, checking on each other and beginning to restore order. "That was at least a 6.0, commented one student casually, helping to reshelve books. "Decent shake. Not as bad as the 081 though," replied another. The aliens huddled together in shock. "They're acting as if this is normal," whispered Mila. "For them, it is," Lorkel realized. "Their entire existence is defined by surviving catastrophe." Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of several humans, including the student Thorn had helped rescue. "Dude, how did you lift that beam?" one asked, eyes wide with amazement. "That thing weighs hundreds of pounds." Thorn stammered, struggling for an explanation. "Adrenaline. I read humans can perform feats of strength in emergencies." "Yeah, but you're not exactly built like a weightlifter," the student persisted. "And what's with your skin? It looked different for a second when you were straining." The four exchanged alarmed glances. Their suits must have glitched during the earthquake, temporarily revealing their true forms. "I think we need to tell them," Lorkel said quietly in their native communication frequency. "The earthquake damaged our suits. They won't fully function much longer." "That violates every protocol," Zervex protested. "We're supposed to evacuate if compromised. The transport is 20 kilometers away, and emergency extraction would endanger the humans," Lorkel countered. "Besides, isn't understanding how humans react to the unknown part of our research." After a tense moment of consideration, they agreed. Lorkel addressed the gathered humans. "We need to tell you something important," she began. "We are not what we appear to be." She activated her suit's holographic controls, momentarily revealing her true Viridian form before restoring the human appearance. Gasps and expressions of shock rippled through the small crowd. "We are researchers from the Galactic Academy of Interstellar Studies," she explained. "We came to study how humans survive on what we classify as a Deathworld, a planet hostile to most forms of advanced life." To their surprise, the initial human reactions included not just fear but fascination. "You're aliens? Actual extraterrestrials?" The questions came rapidly, overlapping in excitement. "Are there others? Why Earth? Can we see what you really look like?" Carefully, the four deactivated their holographic disguises, revealing their true forms while maintaining their environmental protection. They braced for panic, perhaps hostility. Instead, the humans' reactions were predominantly curiosity, caution mixed with wonder. "This is amazing," breathed the student Thorn had rescued. "Actual proof we're not alone. Your environmental suits, they protect you from Earth conditions?" asked a student wearing a physics department shirt. "Yes," Thorn explained, his natural voice now translated directly. "What you consider normal would kill us in minutes. Your gravity, atmospheric composition, radiation levels, microorganisms, all lethal to us. And yet you came anyway. For research?" The question came from Professor Chen, who had apparently joined the growing crowd. "To understand the Deathworld paradox," Lorkel replied. "How a species from one of the most hostile planets we've encountered has not only survived but developed advanced technology and complex society. Most species on similar worlds remain primitive, focused solely on survival." The professor nodded thoughtfully. "And what have you learned?" The four researchers exchanged glances before Lorkel spoke again. "We've learned that humanity's greatest strength is not despite your harsh environment, but because of it. Your biology evolved remarkable resilience. Your psychology developed to turn danger into opportunity. Your social structures formed to solve problems collectively. Your intelligence itself appears to be an adaptation to constant threat. The species in our region of the galaxy evolved on worlds where survival was relatively assured," Zervex added. "Intelligence developed gradually after basic needs were met, but humans developed intelligence as a survival requirement. You turned an evolutionary disadvantage into your greatest asset, Mila concluded. Most species avoid problems. Humans solve them. A thoughtful silence fell over the gathering. Finally, Professor Chen spoke again. So what happens now? Are we about to have formal first contact with galactic society? Our mission was observation only, Lorkel explained. First contact protocols are still being developed, but circumstances have forced our hand. We won't hurt you, Thorne assured them, aware how his rocky form might appear threatening. But we need help repairing our transport. To the researchers' continued surprise, the humans not only accepted their revelation, but immediately began offering assistance. Engineering students volunteered expertise. University administrators provided secure access to facilities. Even campus security helped establish a perimeter around their damaged transport when they finally reached it. Over the next days, as they worked to repair their vehicle, the alien researchers continued their study, now with the full knowledge and cooperation of a small group of humans. The humans, in turn, asked countless questions about galactic society, technology, and biology. You created an artificial gravity technology because your world has low gravity, mused one engineering student, examining a component from their transport. We developed material science to withstand our crushing gravity, different paths to similar solutions. Your immune systems are remarkable, Lorkel told a biology student who was helping analyze Earth's microbiome. You live in constant contact with organisms that would devastate most worlds, yet you've developed complex defenses against them. As their departure date approached, the 4 researchers prepared their final assessment for the Academy. Humans represent an evolutionary path we've not encountered before, Lorkel dictated into her report. Their hostile environment didn't limit their development. It accelerated it. They don't avoid problems. They innovate solutions. They don't fear the unknown. They explore it. Their biology, psychology, and society all reflect adaptation to constant threat. Most significantly, she continued, their response to discovering alien life was not primarily fear, but curiosity. When confronted with the unknown, their instinct was to understand rather than retreat. It is the assessment of this research team that humanity's classification as originating from a Deathworld is accurate but incomplete. Earth is indeed lethal by galactic standards, but this environment has produced a species uniquely equipped for challenges beyond their homeworld. As they continue to advance, humans may well become not just participants in galactic society, but essential contributors, bringing problem-solving perspectives that evolved nowhere else. As their repaired transport prepared for departure, the small group of humans who had assisted them gathered to say farewell. "Will we see you again?" asked Professor Chen. "I believe you will," Lorkel replied. "Not just us specifically, but formal contact with the galactic community. Our report will recommend accelerated preparation for Earth's inclusion." "What should we do until then?" another student asked. Thorne's crystalline features shifted in what the humans had learned was a smile. What humans always do. Survive. Innovate. Explore. Those qualities that helped you thrive on a Deathworld will serve you well among the stars. As their transport rose into Earth's turbulent atmosphere one final time, the 4 researchers watched the blue planet recede beneath them. They had come to study how humans survived on a Deathworld. They departed understanding how humanity's greatest challenges had become their greatest strengths. And somewhere in the vastness of space, a galactic society unaccustomed to change would soon learn about a species forged in adversity, ready to bring their unique perspective to the cosmos.